There we go. Hi everyone, I'm Nanette from the Metal Embossing Academy, and it's my absolute pleasure, joy, and honor to welcome Magdalena Muldoon from Mercart today. Magdalena, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for your time and for agreeing to the interview. And I'm really looking forward to chat with you and just find out more about your own metal embossing journey. So, do you want to start by telling us where you're from and how long you've been doing this?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for letting me in. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Absolutely.
I was born in Mexico City, and I lived there until 2002 when I moved with my daughters and my husband to the United States, to Dallas, Texas. And I got started with this through my mom. She was also Magdalena, and she founded Mercart in Mexico City back in 1970.
Wow.
Yes, and she was really the pioneer for the metal embossing and many other crafts, very fine crafts, like gold leaf and marquetry and painting. I mean, they did a lot of things in the store, and she introduced pretty much the tools and the metals and the metal embossing techniques in Mexico about maybe 35 years ago, I would say. So I had the privilege to learn from many of the teachers there. There were like 12 teachers, or I think there was a point when there were 15 teachers teaching at Mercart. And I had the privilege of learning from at least 5 of them, which was great because, every teacher has, even if the technique in general is the same, more or less,
yes,
each person has their own touch, their own tricks, their own tips, their own style. So I learned a little bit from all of them. So I think that was a blessing, pretty much. And so when I moved to the U.S., I brought Mercart to the U.S. and I had an online store. And I started teaching pretty much all over the place, which is what I love the most.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. So my grandmother used to be a pewter artist way back. So this must have been in the 50s and 60s. And she was the same. She did all these different crafts. She made wedding dresses. She did glass painting, pewter art, all these things. And I remember growing up just watching what she did. And I was also always fascinated by this. And so my own journey started just after I got married, so in 2002 roughly. I got really interested in pewter, but by that time, it sort of died down in South Africa. So that's where I'm from originally, is from South Africa. And by the time I wanted to learn, there were no books around. There was just nothing. We couldn't find or anything. And so in South Africa, I remember around about 2005, Sandy Griffith and the ladies from Mimic then started in with that. So it's interesting how these crafts sort of go through phases. Hey, so it'll be a massive hit, and then all of a sudden it sort of dies down. But thank goodness you guys kept metal embossing and pewter art alive for us to enjoy. So what is your favorite medium to work on? Do you like or copper? What is your favorite?
By far pewter. By far. And I know it's, more expensive than other metals, but I think it's worth it. It takes the same amount of effort, time, and love to do a project in aluminum that in pewter. But pewter looks so much better because actually it's the only metal that I have seen that looks like silver, right?
That's true.
It's the only one that when you polish it really looks like silver. Actually, for those that don't know, I did a book. It's called the Metal Embossing Workshop, and in that book, there's one project. There's a candle with the monogram, the initial of my daughter, and I made that when she made her first communion, and that is made in silver. Pure silver, .999 silver.
Wow.
And then I made a copy, an exact copy in pewter. When I was traveling, I would put them together, and 8 out of 9 of 10 people couldn't tell the difference.
That's
They thought
amazing.
yeah, they thought it was, oh, sorry.
Wow.
They thought it was silver. So I love it because it's the most malleable metal,
Yes.
the softest metal, and it looks so gorgeous just by itself. I actually I just put the patina and I polish it, and that's it.
That's
I
it. Gorgeous.
I rarely use any paints or anything like that on pewter. I think that
Yeah.
I like that in other metals, but pewter by itself is it's a
It's
joy to me.
gorgeous.
The Rolls Royce of metal.
Oh, that's so true. I love how you say that. It's absolutely true. So I love color on metal, but oh my word, I hate doing it on pewter because it's like you say, the pewter is just so luxurious and just such a beautiful metal. You don't want to wreck it by adding anything else onto it. So I save my colorful play for all the cheapies. So let's talk about how long have you been doing this? So your mom started Mercart in the 70s. So is that right that you got into it?
Well, I was too young back then. I was always involved in a way, but I really started getting much more into this in the late 80s.
Cool.
And that's when I really started my process or my journey. And then when I moved to the U.S. and I brought Mercart to the U.S., that was quite a challenge, to tell you the truth. It may have been the most difficult part of the entire process because, well, I was moving to a new country, a new language, and metal embossing was huge in Mexico. By then it had been in Mexico, years and years. So everybody knew about metal embossing. Here, not so much. And so it was quite a challenge to start, letting people know about this amazing craft. So maybe that was the most difficult part of the process, but I enjoy every moment of it.
Oh, absolutely. So tell me about your tools, because I know the Mercart tools have got the best reputation in the industry for just being the best tools available. So did your mum and you guys start creating the tools, or did you have suppliers that you bought from?
So at the very, very beginning, when my mom started this ages ago, she would purchase some tools that she brought from abroad. And they were metal, they were made of plastic.
Right.
They was plastic. And then she found, she started trying to design better tools, and she found someone in Mexico to do it for her. And so she started manufacturing the tools that were just for Mercart. And nowadays I see lots of tools that sometimes I think it's like I'm honored, but at the same time I I see so many tools that recycle, and then, well, I think that's a good compliment, that they know that our tools look so great. And what I love about them is that not only the variety, it has a huge variety of tools, but also the way it feels.
Yes.
The long metal, shiny, gorgeous looking handle. It's like serious professional tool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so,
I love it.
And I really love them. I don't know if, here I have one, for example, the Teflon tool.
Right.
And but they feel so sturdy. They are made of nice heavy metal, and so it's a joy working with them, honestly.
That's lovely. And I love the way they actually fit in your hand, because some of the tools, I've got a callus on my finger, because you press quite hard when you do embossing, but those tools just sit in your hand so comfortably because they're a little bit thicker than some of the other ones. And the Teflon tools are just beautiful, the way they glide over the metal. You don't even need to lubricate, so your process is a bit quicker. You don't need to lubricate and then clean and all these things. You can just go with a Teflon. I don't know if you still lubricate while using the Teflon. I don't, because I don't find it necessary. Can you hear me? There we we go. I can hear you.
Okay, now I can hear you. Sorry, I don't know what happened. Sorry about that.
No, no problem. That's all right.
I can hear you now. Perfect.
There
So
we go.
if you can repeat your question, if that was a question, I would love to hear it again.
So I was asking, so with me, when I use the Teflon tools, it eliminates the step of having to lubricate your metal. So I don't know if you use it the same, or do you still lubricate even when using the Teflon tools?
I don't necessarily do, especially not when I'm using pewter. I've noticed that sometimes when you're using aluminum and maybe copper, you need a little bit of lubricant. I always carry a little bit of lotion, moisturizer, like hand moisturizer, hand lotion, because then a little drop of that hand lotion does the job.
Yeah.
And but with pewter, you don't need it that much, really.
No, absolutely. So I see that you also enjoy painting and Zentangles. So are you one of the lucky artists who can do your own work and then do your own doodles on the pewter? Do you use your own designs?
Yes, well, some of them are my design, and of course some others are the typical tangles that everybody that is doing Zentangles is familiar with. But actually, it's funny because when I first saw Zentangle for the first time, the first thing I thought was, hey, this can be done in pewter.
Same.
And yes, ages ago in Mercart, we used to do some samplers of the tools, and we would do little squares. And in each square, we would do a different pattern just to give people ideas for the background for the pewter, or just, it was basically a sampler. But people liked it that much that it became one of the class projects.
That's amazing.
And so when I saw those little tangles, I was in a show, I was teaching somewhere, and I saw that, and I said, oh my gosh, that looks so familiar to the samplers we've been doing forever in metal. And I have to do some metal embossing with it. And I've done it, and I love it. They go together so well.
They do. It's one of my favorite things as well, is to do Zentangles on metal. And I just love the textures that you can get, the different ways that it can look, whether you engrave it or raise it. It just looks amazing. So very cool. Then one of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you have any favorite tools? Is there a specific one that you find yourself going back to, that you use all the time, or
maybe if I would, well, my very, very favorite, it would be the Teflon tool.
Yeah.
The Teflon tool for me is the most necessary, and because I do everything with it. I refine, I outline, I trace, I do little squiggles for backgrounds. I clean. I do pretty much everything with this. Certainly something round, like one of the cotton balls, right? To push the metal and give volume. That would be a second one. Then the one I also love is the outliner or refiner. One that people sometimes they are like, oh, what is that? Because it looks like a dentist hook or something like that. But that one makes fine lines that with a very, very delicate and elegant, fine little lines, which I love. And of course, one of those paper tools, how do you? I noticed that they call it differently in different places. Yeah, we call it paper stomp, but
yes, that's the one.
They call it differently in other places. So I would put like if I had to do a very basic kit, I would do the Teflon tool, 1 or 2 balls and cups to have round, a paper stomp, the refiner, and one decorative wheel, at least for a little border or something.
Yes, absolutely. It's funny because I find myself going back to the same tool all the time. I've got a very fine point Teflon tip tool that I use now for all my projects. That and a paper stump, and that's it. So I actually inherited some of my grandma's tools when she passed away. And she's got the hockey sticks, and I think the same one that you say that looks like a dentist hook, the refiner.
Right.
I've never used them. never ever use them because they're metal tools. So it always feels like they're scratching the pewter. So I don't like the feel of it. So I just go back to my Teflon tip tool and my paper stumps, and that's it. That's how we roll.
And that's the beauty of it. Everybody feel they find their particular technique, the particular style. And my mom, for example, she used to love one tool that we called it the spoon, and it was her favorite. I never was crazy about it. But yeah, the Teflon tool is by far, I think, the most necessary one.
Oh, they're beautiful. I just love the way they work. Right, so let's see. What advice do you have for beginners?
Several, actually. One of the things I would like to tell them, don't throw away your first projects.
Right.
Because keep them. Even if you hate them and you feel that they are not good and you're not doing anything right. To this day, I regret not keeping my very first project. But I remember it fondly now. And when I tell my students about it, they all laugh because I did what according to me was a tulip, which is my favorite flower.
Oh, beautiful.
But I had just seen some demos that my mom was doing for some people, and I didn't know anything about the technique, but I thought I knew it all because I was seeing her doing the demo. And so I said, I have this. And so I took some tools and my little suede and my pewter, and I traced the tulip, and I was so proud of myself because I was in my first metal embossing project. And when I showed it to her, she looked at it and she said, "Oh, well, you did a nice jalapeno." And I was like, "What?" So it didn't look like a tulip at all. So of course I was frustrated and I threw it away. And I regret doing that because I would love seeing now how far I have come.
Absolutely.
Right? And I kept my second project though. So my advice is don't throw anything because it will help you see how far you have come.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah. The other thing is that I've noticed in most of my students, they were always being too hard on themselves. They would see my stuff or they would see someone else's stuff and they would say, "Oh, but mine is not as beautiful. Oh, but mine is." I mean, you're in the process. You're learning. If yours was as nice as the teachers at the beginning, I mean, that doesn't happen, right? Only very few cases. So don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
You're going to get there. You're doing amazing things already.
True.
And so and my third advice would be to play with the metals, play with the tools, play with other things like inks and pastes and stuff like that. Let me tell you, there was one of the textures that I loved using as a background was something that came up when my mom was playing with pewter as an accident, playing with the pewter.
Exactly.
And I call it my mom's texture. And I take this little star wheel, the little, and I grab my metal and I just go up and down, up and down, up and down in the same spot with one hand. The other hand, I turn slowly the metal. And so it creates like a, I don't know how you would say it in English, but it's an amazing texture. And I will be very happy to send you the instructions and pictures.
Yeah, love to. Thank you.
And that one was just playing with the metal, and she said, "Oh my gosh, look at this! How nice it looks." So that would be another advice that I would have for. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared of the metal. Just don't push it too hard because people tend to at the beginning to a little bit too much, and then they're hurting their shoulders and suffer. You need to enjoy it. Take it easy. Don't press too hard. Enjoy the process. Experiment, and you will have a blast.
Oh, absolutely. I so agree with you. It's interesting because my son he's turning 10 in June, so I like doing kids classes. But the reason I love the kids is they just let go. They literally will sit there and play with the metal and have so much fun. And then when I do adult classes, you can see these people are getting so hung up. They try to do it so perfectly that they get stuck.
Right.
Way out of the process. And so my advice to them is the same thing. It's literally take some metal, buy yourself some aluminium so you can just play with it and not feel, oh, I'm wasting all this expensive.
Right.
Get some aluminium and just try out your tools. It's like you say, play with backgrounds, play with stencils, and just have fun. It's so sad. I had a lady in one of my classes the one time, and it was a stencil class, and we made diaries, and she did it perfectly, absolutely perfectly. And by the end of the day, I could see she was not happy, and I asked her, "What's wrong?" And she said, "You know what? My mom had these amazingly high standards, and it never felt like I could measure up. It didn't matter what she made. Her mom always had something unkind to say." And it broke my heart. I looked at this piece that she created, and it was magnificent. For her first time, it was brilliant, and she experienced no joy out of it. So,
that's too bad.
I mean, just play, have fun. That's why we're here. That's why we do art, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, time stands still for me when I do it. I'm not sure. What's your favorite part about playing with metal? What do you enjoy most?
It's so relaxing. It's my therapy. My moment. I don't want to stop. Once I start working with something, and just see the entire process.
Yeah.
From the first trace, the first Teflon stroke, until that's when you put the paste on the back and you patina and you polish it, and oh my gosh, I mean, the entire process is so delightful. It's amazing.
I agree. I want to ask you something, because with me, I'll have a general idea of what I want to make. But at the end, because I keep playing with it and you try different things, it never ends up the picture I had in my head.
Right.
Do you experience the same thing, or do you have a certain plan and you know exactly what the outcome will be?
A little bit of both, but I would say that the same happens to me, unless I'm doing a precise project that I already know in advance, and I have the design and I transfer it to the metal. When it's more like tangles and things like that, I just go with the moment, and it's a surprise at the end. That, oh, okay, it turned out better than I expected.
Exactly. I found as well that with certain metals, a lot of it depends on the actual metal itself. So I love pewter, and I think pewter is the most forgiving one of them all.
Oh yeah.
It's not as rigid as the aluminium, and it's not as soft and malleable as the color coated ones. And I find that every metal, you can do the exact same design, but the end result will be different, because the metal will allow you different things to accomplish.
That's right.
In the same way. So that's one of the things I tell my students as well, is just do what the metal allows you to do. Don't be too rigid in your thinking that you get hung up on the process. Just go with the flow.
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. So tell us a bit about where we can find those amazing tools of yours.
Okay, so this is what happens. Mercart in Mexico, it's still there. I'm still part of it, not on a day-to-day basis, because I don't live in that country anymore. But I have an amazing partner, and she's in charge of that. So there's a website, and we ship everywhere in the world.
Fantastic.
And it's mercart.com.mx, but I can send you all the information to share with your students. Now, the Mercart in US, I sold it a few years back, I'm not in charge of it anymore. I'm not on the day-to-day operation, but
Right.
I'm still involved in the sense of the techniques instead. So if people want information about how to emboss, about classes, which I still
Right.
teach, everything I'm still in. Okay.
Okay.
But if someone wants to know about where is their order being shipped or what about their invoice, I'm not involved in that anymore.
Okay. That sounds
But
good.
I'm part of it in the sense that I'm still teaching, and I still have, because I teach a lot, I still have a very good amount of new tools, metals, patinas, and everything in my studio, which I just cleaned during the quarantine, and I found that I have lots of things, and they are available, so they can text me, they can contact me, and I have a promotion actually. If you buy 5, you get 1 extra. So
Brilliant.
yeah, I'm
That's awesome.
in a cleaning process. So
Cool.
but yeah,
I'll
the
share
3
that.
places: myself, Mercart Mexico, or Mercart Texas.
Okay, perfect. I've got those details, so I'll put them at the end of the video. And then let's get into some questions because I shared some of your pictures with my students.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that they were very intrigued by is the picture of the mandala that you sent, the one with it looks like a dome
Yes,
shape. So
right.
I had questions about that because we've done mandalas before, but they raised in certain parts, flat in others, but yours had this beautiful dome shape. So they were very intrigued
Right.
with that. So if you'd like to share your process on that.
Well, that one actually was done with a tool that we have in Mexico, and we call it the thumb.
Oh, right.
It's
Okay.
it's a wooden piece that looks like a thumb,
Right. I've
and so
seen that. Yeah.
because it's so round and smooth, with that, it's not the same as like a cotton ball, which is very
Right.
little, right?
Yes.
This is like a very smooth round tool, and so you
Beautiful.
can push the metal back and forth and back and forth, and you create a dome.
Wow. That's
Hmm.
awesome. So
And
with
we
the
do
dome,
that.
so did
You
you,
sorry, you do that on a very soft surface. You can do
right,
that
of
on your
course.
hand. So
Okay.
yeah, something that gives more
Yes.
than just the suede. You have to find something
Okay.
that is. So I usually do it on my hand.
That's awesome. I'll have to try that. I've never tried that before, so that's a good tip. The other thing they were very intrigued by is the gilder space. Do you have a
Hmm.
specific brand that you like that works well on the metal, or can any brand do?
Um, well, here I just knew one that is called the Gilder Space. I
Right.
don't remember the brand, and I used to carry it,
Mm.
and that's the one I buy. The little tins, the little metal
Yes,
tins.
that's right.
Those are amazing. I don't like how they work on pewter.
Okay.
They don't adhere to the pewter as nicely as they do with aluminum.
Okay. That's a good thing because we don't want to wreck the pewter. I think that's
And we
actually a
don't
blessing
want to,
in
yes,
disguise.
I agree with you. So I
That's
don't use it
interesting.
in pewter, but it's really great for colored aluminum.
Yeah, and it's beautiful because I
Hmm.
love how subtle it is, and you can blend the colors, hey? So they sort
Right,
of flow
right.
into each other. That's gorgeous. So
Yes,
with the
yes.
gilder space, do you have to seal your project with clear lacquer spray, or do you just leave it as is?
I leave it as is.
Okay,
Yes, I leave it
cool.
as is.
All
Hmm.
right. Yeah. I found, I want to ask you about your pewter as well. So the ones that you guys sell, I assume is it unleaded?
Well, this is what happens with pewter. Uh, Unleaded pewter is way much more expensive. Much more expensive,
Yeah,
and not only that, but it's not as flexible, as malleable,
right.
because what gives the pewter its malleability in part is the pewter. I mean
The
the
metal,
lead.
the lead.
Now,
Right.
there used to be, many years ago, we used to carry 2 types of pewter:
Mm-hmm.
the tin coated pewter, which is what we have now, on
Right.
both sides, double-sided tin coated pewter,
Mm-hmm.
and the one that was only one-sided. The one
Okay.
that was one-sided, you would see the silver looking gorgeous pewter on the front, and on
Mm-hmm.
the back it would look bluish.
Right.
That bluish is the lead, right?
Okay.
But nowadays, they don't produce that. At least we don't carry that anymore. We stopped carrying it, I mean, maybe 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We only have the two-sided. So the lead is pretty much in, let's call it inside.
Okay.
So you're
That makes
not in
sense.
touch with the lead unless you put patina and patina and patina and polish it. I mean, and until the lead can surface.
Okay.
But
That makes sense.
but you're really not touching the lead. So
Okay.
unless you're planning on eating it or licking it or wearing it, I wouldn't be worried at all
Worried
about
about it.
the double-sided. We've been using this for 30 years.
Okay.
And with no problem whatsoever.
Yeah. I think the one I bought, so before we left South Africa, because Pewter is not really readily available in New Zealand. So before we came, I did some research and tried to find it, couldn't find any. And so I bought about 20 meters of Pewter. But what happened is the art shop where I bought it from, they didn't have enough space to measure it out in one continued length. And so the guy who cut it carried it outside into the shopping mall, rolled it out onto the floor.
Wow.
Measured it out and then cut it. So it is so scratched. It's not even funny. That I only realized when I opened the roll when we got here. But that's Pewter. It's definitely the one that contains lead because it's got the bluish tint on the one side. So the patina only takes it takes better on one side than the other. But what I found with it, and I've seen some of my students struggling with this as well, is when you apply the copper patina, after you've patinaed and you've polished and you do the copper patina, we have mixed results. So sometimes it'll turn out beautifully and shiny and all in one go. And then other times it just goes blotchy and it just won't take. Have you found the same thing?
But what patina are you using?
So the black patina.
The black patina, okay.
And then afterwards, sometimes I add copper highlights to it by applying copper patina over the initial one.
Right.
And it gives a copper color. But I've had mixed results with that.
I would say 99% of the time, the Pewter patina works very well.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen some cases where there are spots where nothing, no matter how much you put, it still looks the same silver looking. And I think that's a problem with the metal, with the way it was manufactured.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the patina itself.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Thank God it happens very rarely. I've also noticed that when sometimes people use the hand lotion to put on the metal, and then they don't clean the metal, they don't remove that.
Yeah.
And so oil and patina are not good. They don't get along.
No.
And so the patina, the oil will never look, I mean, the metal will not look good if you have some oil. The patina will not work very well. So, it happens sometimes. It's not often, fortunately. But I think it's a problem with a specific part in the metal.
Yeah, no, definitely. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Well, I just really hope that people find working on metal as enjoyable as I do.
Yeah.
And again, try everything. Use stencils. Use whatever you want to try. They always rubber stamps. Those are great sources for designs.
Oh, beautiful.
There are designs everywhere. I mean, my mom used to say that everything was embossable. And yes, even the designs on the carpet or on the, whatever. So there are tons of things online, and you don't need to know how to draw. Just print that design, put it on top of the metal, trace it with your Teflon tool, and there you go. That's where you start.
Absolutely. And I found as well, because I mean, my first projects were absolutely horrible. If I look back at them, but I kept them. I've got 3 crosses hanging in my hallway that every time I walk past them, I'm like, oh, I should really take them down. But I keep them because it's exactly what you said. It's good to see how far you've come. It's good to
Right.
see that you're making progress. So I keep them, and every time I'm like, oh, I'm not so sure about them, but they're up there. But yeah, it's just to play with the metal, hey, and to try different textures. I found that some of the glass cutting boards they're not smooth, so they've got a little bit of texture. So I'll just quickly run my my pewter with a paper stump and just create some texture, or some of the, what do you call it? Some of the hardware tapes that looks like mesh. So that
Right.
gives texture, but I haven't tried the stamps yet. So that's a good idea.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
that's lots of designs from the rubber stamps.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite thing? Do you like to upcycle things, or do you like to make, let's say, frames or boxes? Do you have a specific favorite, or do you just like to do, if it's metal, you like it?
Pretty much everything that I find. My husband makes fun of me because I go to a craft store and I buy crosses, frames, boxes, tissue boxes, whatever. I mean, for whatever. And I have tons of them. And then they said, what are you going to do with them? Well, sometimes some of them I give away, some of them I can sell, some of them I just keep them. But it's the process that it's so amazing.
It's so relaxing. Hey, I mean, I can just get lost in my own little world when I start embossing. Time literally stands still. It's like you just relax. It's so fulfilling on every level. And I do hope that our students and people who are just getting into it get that sense, that joy and the peace and the calm that goes along with it. It's really infectious. I find it's completely addictive.
Right.
Yeah. I get withdrawal symptoms if I don't do it. Yeah.
The only part that I don't enjoy so much about metal embossing is waiting for the paste on the back to dry, and then the polishing. The polishing, it's a tough part.
It's time consuming. That's actually, I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. So I normally just use beeswax because it sets so quickly. But I see that Mercart has a specific Phyllis Spice. So would you like to explain to us how that works and what it's all about?
So when we started in Mercart years ago in Mexico, we used to the beeswax, and it's good because it's kind of easy. It doesn't take forever to dry. It's not expensive, but honestly, there was a point when I thought it was a little bit too messy. And then in Texas, the temperature can get pretty hot, and if for some reason you don't have a good air conditioning, it gets soft. It gets
tacky almost.
Yes. So I also tried some of the plaster of Paris and stuff they use for repairing walls and things like that, and they are good, but they crumble sometimes, and then you need to be very careful to just put it on not to go over, not to. And so later I found here in the US, there was a company that I found that is manufacturing a paste for us. What I love about this is, number one, it's liquid. So you just pour it to feel whatever, and it levels itself. You don't need to worry about spreading it and, making sure that it doesn't go over in wrong places or whatever. It just levels itself. Of course, depending on how deep the area is, it takes between 30 minutes to dry to 3 hours. It depends on,
that's
the
not
size.
too bad. That's not too bad.
But when
those other ones take 24 hours, so that's too long for me to wait.
Right.
3 hours I can do.
And usually what I do all my projects, and at night I fill with the paste, I go to sleep, and the next morning everything is done.
Right.
What I like about this paste, number one, is water-based. It's liquid, so it levels itself, so it's very even.
That's very handy.
And once it dries, it's super, super hard.
Okay.
So you cannot dent the metal. You cannot,
Beautiful.
and nothing happens if it's too hot, if it's too cold, whatever. Nothing alters it. So
Okay.
I find it's much more convenient.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had some questions. So most of my students, it's funny because I started this online business in October last year and just put things on Facebook and Instagram and so forth. But so currently, most of my clients are in the US. So I get these questions all the time about the fillers and how long it takes to set and all these things. And I'm so glad you mentioned the Mercart fillers, so I can just refer them to you and they can get it from you.
That would be great.
Beautiful. You said that you sell some pewter kits as well, so project kits. Would you like to tell us a little bit about those?
Well, I don't have many here in my studio. It's just it's kits that they are just 6x6, 3 pieces of 6x6.
Okay.
And we are not carrying that size anymore because it's really for little projects only. Other than that, we have the rolls, which are much more convenient because you can make larger pieces with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So another question I wanted to ask you is, how do you use your offcuts? Do you ever throw anything away, or do you keep them and use them for little projects?
Like the little pieces that I don't use?
Yeah.
Well, I usually use them for demos.
Okay.
For demos, or when I'm teaching, I give it to students so they can try things first before they actually work on their own metal.
Right. Cool.
So mostly for that.
I've been saving all my offcuts. I've been doing this for a little bit over 15 years now, but I literally saved all the little corners that I cut out, all the teeny tiny pieces in a plastic container. And during the quarantine, I signed myself up for an artist challenge online. So they just put all these crazy ideas out, and whatever medium you use, whether you paint or do resin art or mosaic, you've got a challenge. And so one of the things was to create something out of something you would have thrown away. And I thought, oh my goodness, I don't throw anything away. But then I discovered this box, and it challenged me to actually start creating things using only the offcuts. And so I said, you know what, until I've gone through that entire box, I'm not cutting a single piece of metal. So I'm in for a big challenge.
Good for you. You need to show us that.
Yeah, so I've been sticking it onto teeny tiny little terracotta pots and candles and pins and all sorts of things. So I'm having fun with those.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. You need to show us the final project.
I'm just playing. So they're not the most amazing things, but I'm having fun with them. So I actually wanted to do this in the beginning of the interview, but are you an early bird or a night owl? When do you?
No, for me it's really difficult to wake up in the morning. But if you call me at 1 o'clock at night, midnight, I'm still awake.
Cool.
Yes.
Do you drink tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Yes, good. Are you a dog lover or cat lover?
I have 3 dogs.
Awesome. I'm just fine.
Yes. No cats. Actually, I'm allergic. And I have 3 dogs. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, Magdalena, it's been an absolute joy and a pleasure chatting with you. And I'll put all those details on the website. I've got all your web details and where people can find you on your blog and on Facebook. So I'll put that up. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom. And if people have questions, would you, let's say they'd like a tutorial, would you be keen to share some of your ideas with us?
Absolutely. I can send information. I can send instruction, pictures. And if anybody has a question, you have my email.
Yes. And
please feel free to email me, and I will be very, very happy to help in any way I can.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll probably chat soon again. Thank you so much.
Okay, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Magdalena. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.